Obviously, there's so much excitement, especially after reading through all the notes. Especially after reading through all these notes and everything that is coming for Season 3. Holy jeez. Well, we also have a video here from T-Dog Smitty. This is the complete history of Rebirth Island. We're going to take a look at this because I even forgot some of this. Obviously, it goes all the way back to Alcatraz for Battle Royale, but I don't know if he goes into even deeper with like the zombie side of things. So let's take a watch. I'll chime in where I can and see what we got.
Well, almost. While we may only have a little bit longer to wait for the fan-favorite Resurgence map, known for its fast-paced gameplay and high-kill matches to return to Warzone's sandbox, let's take a look at how we got here. The long history of the iconic map is actually a lot older than you might think. To find the origins of this modern classic, we're gonna have to go back. Further, and even further. We're going
to my knowledge,
all the way
it was
back to 11 years ago.
Zombies map first, right?
The classic Black Ops 2 is in its prime. While multiplayer fans are absolutely loving the game and its fresh take on things like creative class,
this is a good map. I
Zombies
love that
players
map.
are starting to feel disappointed with their map selection, leading the community to a new low point for the time. Making matters worse, Treyarch's current Zombies lead, Jimmy Selensky, who oversaw all Zombies content since its inception in World at War, began distancing himself from the mode, and eventually leaving the company a few months later. The shakeup, however, provided an opportunity for the campaign design director, Jason Blundell, to move in with his team's first official Zombies experience, Mob of the Dead. This map may be solely responsible for Black Ops 2's heel turn when it comes to perception, with a creepy vibe, satisfying Easter egg, and just downright fun game.
Was there not other good Zombies maps at the time? I didn't play a lot of them, but this is one of the ones that stood out the most to me. But I don't know if it was even another. They redid this map at some point in the future
Alcatraz
too.
Island would become an
they did have good ones
set piece for the franchise.
I don't know if they came later too.
Years later in 2018, now head of both campaign and Zombies, Jason Blundell would see the return of the fan favorite Zombies map as a remake, Blood of the Dead. While aesthetically the same as the original, Blood of the Dead expanded the playable space, stretching further out onto the island. Meanwhile, that same year, with the sudden rise of Battle Royale genre, with games like PUBG and Fortnite, Call of Duty would begin dipping their toes into the genre as well. Led by the multiplayer dev David Vonderhaar, a new team at Treyarch would put together Blackout, a Battle Royale experience for the first time on the Call of Duty engine.
I just did a video on this going back.
A collage of fan-favorite Treyarch maps like Raid, Firing Range, Nuketown, even with some Zombies maps thrown in for good measure. And while Blackout was loved by many, it did have a few limitations and design choices that held it back compared to Warzone, which would release the very next year. For one, there was no gulag, so once you die, you're dead. The looting system, at least on console, was a mess, and the map itself was just too big and open.
You couldn't even buy your teammates back either when they died.
Down, aka camping.
But that was the straight up, this is just the way that you played Battle Royales back then. There was no res system. Like, there was no, camping was like this was just how you played Battle Royales. You had to sit and not die. If you're the last person alive, you're the only hope. There's no potential for regain. You got to be the last, you got to be the one to win.
After a few months of this, Blackout garnered a cult following, but most of the casual player base moved on to other games.
This also wasn't crossplay.
With the mode, though, would start to notice some weird things happening on the map. Most notably, just off the coast appeared to be Icarus, the plane that Mob of the Dead characters used to escape Alcatraz back in Black Ops 2, leading many to wonder and speculate what was in store for the next upcoming season. And on April 2nd, 2019, Alcatraz was added to Blackout to overwhelming support, being much smaller than the core Blackout map, and without as many long stretches between POIs, the game sped up immensely. But that wasn't even the biggest selling point. In addition, when playing on Alcatraz, the rules of engagement were completely different. Unlike traditional BR, where you spawn in a plane or helicopter passing over the map, now your squad would spawn in portals surrounding the island, each high enough that you could wingsuit to any corner of the map. Plus, when you die in-game, as long as one squad mate stays alive, you'll respawn in those portals after a short countdown. Sound familiar? It's basically Resurgence before Resurgence. This kept each match fast-paced and avoided the dreaded mid-game lull that killed regular Blackout's reputation among the adrenaline junkies who just wanted to get in as many gunfights as possible. The map itself was given a complete...
There was also a lot less players on this, and I think the first iteration that they did, you only came back when the zones locked, if I remember correctly, because I remember I did not like this. It also became around this time other games were coming out, and so the player count on PC dropped drastically to where I could not even get games to start, especially for this mode, because there just wasn't enough players. I think the console players got to enjoy a lot more of this map, but it was not like the current Resurgence. You had like a certain number of lives that you could even come back with, even when we went back and recently revisited this.
Takeover visually. Not only was it set during the day, but most of the brutal blood and gore was removed, improving visibility and making it a little more welcoming.
It wasn't the same as the zombies
the
map.
The core layout of Blood of the Dead remained, aside from clearing out a few paths, and it's even a bit surreal to walk around the area without being chased by zombies. Over the next few months,
as Fortnite came out,
to prefer this map and its faster pace compared to the main game. And while post-launch support for Blackout eventually ended at the release of 2019's Modern Warfare, Alcatraz and its impact on the franchise was far from over. March 10th, 2020 is a day that lives in almost every COD player's head rent-free. It's of course the day that Warzone was first released, taking the world by storm. While immediately more successful than Blackout, probably due to the fact it was free to play, Warzone stuck with the
crossplay
Royale format. 150 players dropping on
150 players.
The gulag and buyback systems were working wonders in keeping players in the game and fighting until the last circle.
Remember how good he was to do the gulag at first?
That some players still didn't care for. Warzone would continue out the rest of Modern Warfare's life cycle with Verdansk as its one and only map. And with COD's yearly release window quickly approaching, players were eager to know if Warzone would continue to be supported through the next game, or would it be abandoned like Blackout was in the year prior. Thankfully, during the lead up to Black Ops Cold War, releasing on November 13th, Activision announced that Warzone would be continuing to get support through the next year, with weapons and operators from Cold War being integrated into the free-to-play.
I hated these vehicles, bro. Those motorbikes.
After being nuked at the end of Modern Warfare's post-launch story, would be rewound, and Warzone would be set again in the iconic city, but during the year 1984, as the headquarters of this year's new villain, Stitch. Alongside Verdansk 84 was a second map fans didn't have to wait long to jump back into. On December 16th, 2020, the same day as Verdansk 84, Rebirth Island was added for the first time to Warzone, and keen observers would notice a certain similarity to the prison island we just spent the first half of this video talking about. Developed by Beanox, the Canadian support studio, who at the time was mostly responsible for porting the PC version of the game, Rebirth Island was almost a one-to-one reskin of Alcatraz. However, instead of a simple port, Alcatraz setting was moved from off the coast of San Francisco to the Soviet Union. Once an illicit Soviet base shut down by the CIA after the events of Black Ops 1. Now, in 1984, Stitch is spinning up production of Nova 6 gas once again. And so, with this new setting, came new POIs. While the cell block stayed relatively the same as the main focus of the map, the powerhouse and the industrial areas were replaced with chemical and bioweapon labs. And on the south end of the map, which used to be for water-based combat, they added a dock dubbed security area.
Yeah, so because you couldn't swim in the game.
Given Warzone's lack of swimming mechanics.
Exactly.
Ruins became construction site, and the docks on the opposite end would remain.
Okay, yeah, see, this was a construction site when it first came out. That's what I was thinking of. That, becomes the other control center later.
It's updated from its 1920s aesthetic to fit the modern era. In addition to this smaller map breathing life into the Warzone community, this update also saw the introduction of the Resurgence mode, borrowing the blueprint that Blackout drew up with its 40-player matches and wave respawns, but now on the newer Warzone engine, which was faster, more fluid, and had new streamlined systems geared toward keeping engagements coming. Really, the only thing it was missing compared to Blackout was a grapple gun. Please bring that back. Rebirth and Resurgence will remain in the playlist even past Verdansk 84's removal on December 9th, 2021, to make room for Vanguard's newest Warzone map, Caldera. And without getting too into the weeds, the community in general didn't like Caldera as much as they did Verdansk.
Not at the beginning of it.
Blackout map, POIs were scattered around with massive clearings between them, and with a central peak in the middle as a built-in hot drop. This resulted in too much focus on long-range engagements, and coupled with Vanguard's already lukewarm reception, this era just left a bad taste in the mouths of the players. But thankfully,
well, the thing is, they also changed the entire way that the game played. Now, if you want to play Vanguard Royale, there's planes. That became the main incentive to play because that's how every high kill player game would go. Get a 60 kill game. It also made it so there's free loadouts. There's a free fire sale, free self-reses that would come in Zone 3. So if you were trying to snipe, it would completely ruin sniping in the game. Like they changed the way the loadouts even came in. They were later. They changed so much, dude, that they slowly reverted a lot of back. They removed a lot of the foliage, etc.
Where Caldera was lacking, Rebirth Island continued to deliver. As the devs released a major
lot of people
overhaul
just
to the
went to
map
this.
on March 23rd, 2022. Rebirth reinforced, overhauling a handful of locations to keep it feeling fresh. And players seemed to enjoy these small changes, or at least didn't hate them.
I think they were really good. I think they were very well received,
Call of Duty update.
Especially because they had so many like little Easter eggs and things that they kept developing the map. It was still like everything we knew and enjoyed about Rebirth, but it just got a little bit better. Now, granted, I didn't play it all the time; it wasn't like my main mode, but it was still
Let's
like a
fast
nice
forward just
update.
a few months now to June 22nd, 2022, where finally, after 2 years, Warzone would see its second small map enter the fray, Fortune's Keep. Developed by High Moon Studios, Fortune's Keep took players to a remote island in the Mediterranean, a brand new Resurgence map with a similar layout to Rebirth, in that it was focused on the main POI, the Keep, along with smaller locations scattered around the island like Winery and Town. These two Resurgence maps and Caldera's Battle Royale would remain as Warzone's offering for the rest of the year until November of 2022, when for the first time in Warzone's history, Activision would choose not to update Warzone alongside the newest mainline release, and opted to launch a brand new version of the free-to-play game instead, announcing the change with 2 words that would send shivers down the spine of most COD players: Warzone 2.0. The sequel to Warzone was meant to be a clean break, built from the ground up to accommodate the yearly map changes and constant weapon and feature integrations that just weren't planned when the original was being developed, with devs communicating that this switch was inevitable.
I was at that event. That was our first time seeing. I think some people had played it a bit before, but the amount of stuff that they took away doesn't even pale in comparison to what they took, for Caldera, for what they did for this. Let alone all the skins, everything we had, all the weapons, all the way the weapons even felt and the way they shot, the visual recoil, the loadouts. You couldn't even buy loadouts. There's 1 loadout per station. The loadouts were shared across everybody, so there's like 10 loadouts across the map. Easiest thing in the world to camp because there's 20 people all trying to land at the same loadout. Go to the freeway. Boy, it was a massive change, of course, on top of slowing the movement, trying to go for more tactical, make less skill gap, easier to play, etc. Changed so much. And then we lost, obviously, Rebirth Island went away as well.
New engine would mean great things in the long term. Spoiler alert. It did not. Warzone 2 launched on November 16th, 2022 with Al Mazrah, a large map with only the default Battle Royale game mode. Map-wise, Al Mazrah seemed to be a solid entry compared to Caldera.
It was. I liked Al Mazrah, actually.
Their glory days back in
especially after all the updates.
Gameplay-wise, Warzone 2 was a bit of a mess. For the sake of brevity, we won't go into too much detail, but the spark notes are no loadouts, 2v2 gulag, slow movement, and
that was,
AI soldiers.
That was great.
Beyond that, though, Warzone 2 didn't launch with any Resurgence maps, and it wouldn't be until the second season, a few months in, that Ashika Island would come in to fill the gap as its one and only small map. Thankfully, though, you could always boot up the original Warzone 1 if you wanted to play good old Rebirth, right? No. In an effort to drive players to the new game, Warzone 1 was rebranded as Warzone Caldera, and a limited matchmaking to only Battle Royale on Caldera.
I had some friends that just stayed on that, and they didn't have research. They didn't have the other things because they were trying to force everybody to the new game, right? And this is why I thought that they would do something similar with Warzone Mobile, and we wouldn't even be getting Rebirth with Season 3. I thought they were just going to force everybody, go play mobile, go spend all your money on your phone, daily login, bundles, loot, whatever, because partly of this and the
no
history
Fortune's Keep and no Rebirth Island. November 16th, 2022. That's the last day Rebirth Island could be played
R.I.P.
before it was shelved. Only a few months later, before the rest of Warzone 1 was also completely shut down, on September 21st, 2023.
Yep.
And unfortunately, that was the last time anyone has played Rebirth Island, with the map going back into the
Or
vault
Caldera.
once again. Now let's move back up to present day, March of 2024 at the time of making this video. While Rebirth Island is set to return first in Warzone Mobile, releasing later this month, console and PC players are still left waiting for it to return to the beloved franchise.
Coming season 3, April 3rd.
Along with Fortune's Keep, which has already been released, Rebirth will be returning to Warzone at some point in 2024, although an official release date is not yet given.
Now
in the
is,
year since,
obviously.
many of Warzone 2's biggest issues have been smoothed out. Resurgence has returned with the aforementioned Ashika Island, Vondel, and now even Fortune's Keep, with the latter two rotating every 15 minutes and receiving the same amount of support.
You can also play Urzikstan in rotation, which they've said has been their most popular mode, even more than Ashika or Vondel, which I think is kind of to be expected because we've already been playing those for the last year, and they also have fog on it, cluttering the map, and it's... Anyways... The Urzikstan is nice because it's the big map. It's the full experience. This is the new thing, and it's working very well. Now we've also got this on top, and they're stacking off to where we got with Fortune's Keep. Of course, they did tweak Fortune's Keep from what originally was. They're not going to be doing that with Rebirth. I think that's a good move.
Stage is finally set for Rebirth Island's Triumphant Return. And maybe, just maybe, we can see Warzone return to the heights
what do you think?
Fallen from years ago.
I don't think it's going to return to the heights, dude. I just don't think it's possible. But that doesn't mean it's not a good game that I still enjoy the hell out of playing all the time. Guys, what a video. T-Dog Smitty, I've met him a couple times now as well. I played next to him at that first COD event that I went to. Incredible dude. Go subscribe to his channel. We'll link his video as well. This was freaking awesome. And if you do have any other good videos you see like this, you want to see me react to or anything, go to my Discord, put it into the channels there in Viral Summit. You might have to level up a bit to see them, but send them in. This was a wonderful little trip down memory lane there, because some of that I did remember, some of it I didn't so much, but now I'm even more in the mood for Rebirth, I gotta say.